So this is indeed work on connection games that I have made with Edouard Bonnet and Florian Chamin, who are co-authors. We used to be, the three of us, PhD students in the same university in Paris, and now we're all moved on to our respective postdocs. And this work was started back when we were doing the PhD. We were looking at one specific connection game, getting results on it. Then a bit later, we got results on another connection game, and then another. Then we thought, oh, maybe we can make a paper with all of these results together that gives us a bit of insight onto what connection games are in general and what kind of results we can get onto them. So this talk corresponds to a paper that we have recently published in Theoretical Computer Science. Not all of the results in TCS will be presented today. There are some of them that are not because I wanted to spend more time on some of them. But if you have any question and want to know more, then come and talk to me. So let's get started with Hex. This is a position of Hex. So Hex is a two-player game, two-player strategy game, abstract. Players take their turn of placing pieces on the board that has a diamond shape. And the black player is trying to connect this side to the top left side with a string of pieces of that color, whereas the white player is trying to connect the top right-hand corner to the bottom left-hand corner with a string of white stones. And stones are never moved, never removed, never captured or anything. They're just placed one after another. So this game, Hex, it is quite interesting to play and gives rise to nice mathematical theories. And to get a better sense of how the game plays, I've set up here a small example that was invented by the graph theorist Claude Verge. So this is White's turn to play. White's turn to play, and White is trying to win the game. So what should be the right move for White to play in this game to ensure that they win? Okay, so we see that there is a big White group here, not connected to the top yet, not connected to the bottom. So a first tentative move would be to connect to the top White corner this way. But this does not really work, because Black can block on the bottom side, and then White will not be able to connect to the bottom left hand corner. So White has to find another strategy. Another strategy than directly connecting to the top. And this comes from the fact that this area also gives rise to possible connections. So White goes directly for the bottom left corner. And then, if Black tries to block the top, then White can play here. And this stone is connected virtually to this edge, because Black cannot prevent both this move and this move in a single turn. This stone is connected to the group through this and that possibility. The group is connected to 3 via this or that. 3 is connected to this group, and because they're all connected together, White can ensure winning the game after some filling moves. Okay, so this was Hex. Today I will tell you about other games that bear some resemblance to Hex. Connection games. The first such game that I will discuss is Twixt. The second game, Slither, then Havannah. Then I will tell you a little bit about another game called Shannon's Switching Game. We don't have any new results on this game, that's not the goal, but it completes the picture. And finally, I will conclude with ultra-weak solutions. So what am I going to tell you about Twixt, Slither, and Havannah? I'm going to discuss the computational complexity of these games. I will prove to you that these games are what we call PSPACE-complete problems, or PSPACE-R. And so, in my very first few slides, I will also introduce very briefly what complexity is. So, before all of that, I will come back to a small history of the game of Hex. I have a Hex board in the middle, and 2 inventors, or 2 people who discovered Hex, depending on who you ask. Maybe you recognize this one. This is John Nash, Nobel Prize of Economics. He invented the game of hex when he was a PhD student in Princeton. And so people would call it Nash, the game. They would call the game Nash, or some other people would call the game John. But this is not the name that stuck. On the left is another mathematician who is also a poet called Piet Hein. He's from Denmark, and he invented the game in 1942, about 5 or 6 years before John Nash, and they didn't know of each other. And so it seems that in the 50s, this game of hex was bound to be discovered, because different people had the idea at the same time, roughly. What makes it appealable to humans? Well, the rules are really simple. It's really a clean game. And another game that's really clean is the game of Go. And as chess grandmaster Edward Lasker used to say in the early 20th century, chess is a game restricted to this world, and Go has something extraterrestrial. If we ever find an extraterrestrial civilization that plays a game that we also play, it will be Go, without any doubt. So why did he say that? Because, so he was a chess grandmaster, but he traveled to Asia and discovered the game of Go, and then he was fascinated with it. He said, oh, the rules of Go are so simple, so clean, whereas in chess we're loaded with history. The first rules of chess, they didn't have en passant, they didn't have castling, and then rules were added, rules were subtracted, but Go is not like that. It's much cleaner. Yet we have the Chinese rules for Go, the Japanese rules for Go, the New Zealand rules for Go, the American rules for Go. It's not that clean and simple. And there come Jack Weisbach, who did a PhD here, I believe, and he said that hex has a platonic existence, independent of human thought. If we ever find an extraterrestrial civilization at all, they will know about hex, sure. Jack did his PhD on hex, of course. Okay, so besides Jack, other people have cared about hex and connection games, especially Cameron Brown. He has written books on the strategy for hex. He has also written a book on connection games in general and how they differ from one another, list of rules, list of historical facts. And there are playing communities online and in real life who play hex and other similar connection games. So it has some interest for researchers and for abstract game players. Okay, complexity. Who has ever heard of computational complexity here, P versus NP, and these kind of problems? Okay, a large fraction of the room, that's good. So I'll be very brief. I like this comic from Gary and Johnson on how you can motivate studying complexity to your boss if you work for some company. Say, okay, I have this problem to solve, and I haven't been able to solve it. But because I can prove that it's NP hard or NP complete, then it also tells you that all these other famous people wouldn't be able to solve it. Because if they would be, then they would know how to solve the other problems. And that's not just true for NP hardness, but also for PSPACE hardness. And how that applies to the games that we're interested in is like this, for instance. So the basic problem is the polynomial space Turing machine halving problem. Does a Turing machine halve after looking at a polynomial space for a specific input? And this we can show that the quantified Boolean formula problem is harder. You don't need to know what this problem is, just bear with me that it's harder. So if we knew how to solve this one, we would know how to solve this one. And then it turns out that generalized geography is harder than QBF. So because if we knew how to solve geography, then we would know how to solve this one. Therefore, we would know how to solve this one. And hex is harder than geography. So if we knew how to solve hex, we would know how to solve this polynomial space Turing machine problem.
At least it's hard, actually. It's not strictly, we don't know it's strictly harder.
We don't know if it, well, actually we know that they're the same complexity class. So it also turns out that this one is harder than hex, and so it's all part of a class. And in terms of class, there are many of them. There's the NP-complete class that corresponds to this picture. This is the PSPACE-complete class, and here is a small graphic on how the classes relate to one another. So this is the group of problems that we know how to solve very efficiently. Then the NP are the problems that we're not yet sure how to solve efficiently, and we're not exactly sure whether there are any problems here that are not in P either. That's the million-dollar question. Then P space is the same, X time is space. And we can fill this hierarchy with a few problems. For instance, we can see that chess is an X time complete problem. So unless someone manages to get a really good result, it would be harder than Hex, which is a P-space problem, which would be harder than Candy Crush, which was recently proved to be NP-complete. And then there are other problems in X space, in X time, Twixt time, etc. And I'm not going to focus on these. Okay, is everything clear so far? Because it's undecidable. So it's even harder than all of these. Let's get started with the first game, Twixt. Twixt, so it's also a connection game invented by Alex Randolph in the 60s. This is how it plays. I've played this game with people in Canada on a real board, but I've played it online very often. It has been shortlisted for the Spiel des Jahres Board Game Award, which indicates that many people thought that it was well designed. And it has been also the object of people doing their master's thesis on the game. Some people have shown that a single-player version of the game was NP-complete, and we are going to look at the two-player version. More recently, there was a second master's thesis on how to implement Twixt effectively and how to develop heuristics for it. We take a more theoretical approach. So how do we play Twixt? We have a board like this. Black sides, white sides, place pieces one after another. The goal of white is to connect bottom to top, the goal of black is to connect left to right. And when you place a piece like this, you connect it to other of your pieces if the distance between them is that of a chess knight's move. So 1 and 2. Here we have 1, 2. Here we have 1 and 2. So this is how you connect pieces. So now in this position, in this puzzle, white is trying to connect the top to the bottom. Yeah.
The lines cannot cross, right?
So you have two different versions of Twixt, the pen and pencil paper and the board game version. In the pen and pencil, they are allowed to cross your own color. You're never allowed to cross the lines of the opponent. That's important. But whether you're allowed to cross your own lines depends on the version, and our results apply to both cases. Okay, so what do we do here? First possibility is try to break through the two groups at the top, but this does not work because black can block with this move where you connect here and there. So white has to find another strategy, and the other strategy is to play this. It's a bit counterintuitive, but the idea is that now if you play here, it will not give enough time for black to block because it will be connected directly. And if black wants to block this directly, then you can go in the other direction. And so black cannot prevent those two moves at the same time, and white will win. This is very similar to what we had in Hex, where you make a move that threatens two different connections, and the opponent cannot block them. So in a sense, Twixt can be seen as a great version of Hex. Instead of being played on a hexagonal board or a diamond shape with hexagons, it's played on a grid. And we're not making adjacent turns connected, but those that are at the chess knight's move apart. How can we prove that the game of Twixt is difficult? How can we prove that it's P-space hard? We're going to reduce from Hex. So we're going to show that Hex positions are a special case of Twixt positions. We're going to show that if we had a strategy that always works for Twixt, we could apply it and play optimally in Hex. And we do that on a cell-by-cell basis. So we take a hex cell, and we say, how are we going to represent that hex cell in Twixt? And of course, if we try to represent an 11 by 11 hex board, we're not going to use an 11 by 11 Twixt board. We're going to use a bit bigger. And so this is how a single hex stone or single hex cell would be represented. This is not very visual yet, but like this is a bit better. So we recognize the hex from the hex cell, and P and W stand for where the Twixt player should play in order to simulate the corresponding hex moves. If white plays there, if white plays here, then white is connecting this group to this one, to this one. And this group goes through that edge of the cell, this also through that edge. And now, after white has played this move, all the 6 edges are connected together. And so, if we had a white group somewhere there, and a white group over there, then by playing on the Twixt board here, we're connecting them together. And on this position, there's no more move for black to play that could prevent white from connecting. And there's no need for white to play any additional move. This single move is sufficient. And similarly for black, we can connect the 3 groups, and so the 6 edges, and there wouldn't be anything else remaining for white to do. When we put them all together, we get the big picture. This is how we represent a 3 by 3 hex board on Twixt. So you recognize the pattern here. This is an empty cell. This is another empty cell, etc. And so one way, for instance, for black to connect the bottom edge to the top edge would be to play black here, connecting this group, which is connected to the bottom, to this group. Then black here, connecting the bottom to this, the base, to that, and then one further up. And that would ensure winning. And there's no way around it. Like black can't go like this. This is blocked by the white chain. So the only way for black to win this Twixt game is by playing in the middle of the hex cells. So if you knew how to play Twixt really well, then you would know how to place in the middle of the hex cells really well, and then you would know how to play hex really well. This is how we reduce hex to Twixt. This is the basic idea of computational complexity, whether you do it with QBF formulas, with Turing machines. I like to do it with games, and this is the Twixt example. Let's go to Slither. Similar approach. This game is much more recent. It was invented in 2010 by Corey Clark. It's also a connection game, and it's also being played on a rectangular grid. But it's different from Twixt. There won't be any chess-wise move involved. It will be the regular 4-side connections. And it will involve forbidden patterns. I will come to it very soon. And stones can be moved in this game, unlike in Hex and Twixt. So this is very different from Hex and Twixt. And yet it's still a connection game where you're trying to connect the sides of a board. So studying this game will help us understand the design of connection games. Okay, so let's say that you want to adapt Hex to be played on a rectangular grid or a square grid. The easiest way to do it is just say, oh, well, you place your stone on the squares, and if they adjacent to one another, then you win. But then you get into deadlocks like this one. So here, black has placed a move, white has placed a move, and now who wins? If you say that the stones are connected diagonally, then this is a position where the 2 players would win at the same time, which is not really desirable. If you say that they're not connected diagonally, then there's no way for black to win, and there's no way for white to win from this position. So this is, hypothetically, how Corey Clark came to design Slither. Yeah, sure.
So this makes me wonder about some. So is it impossible with X to have such a deadlock? So if there's always one that wins, it's not possible to have.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I will come back to it a bit later. Yes?
Same question as Twixt, but you come back to later on.
Exactly. Yes. These are important questions, and I will try to address them a bit later. So it's easy to get a draw with this game. It's not really fun, no one will play it. So let's change the rules slightly to make it impossible to have these deadlocks. So that was one of Corey Clark's ideas. He said, this is all hypothetical, I never told him. He would have said, this is undesirable, so we're going to forbid this pattern. Okay, let's make it a bit more precise. We're going to forbid having two stones in diagonal if they're not connected orthogonally. So this is allowed, the two stones in diagonal, because you have a connecting stone. This is not allowed because you're missing a connecting stone there. And this ensures that if you manage to fill the board, then there will be a winning player. Okay? You still get two deadlocks. This would be a deadlock. You cannot play a black stone here because you would have the forbidden pattern with this one. You cannot play a black stone there because you would have the forbidden pattern with this one. And for symmetrical reasons, you can't play a white stone in either cells. So this would still be a draw because there's no legal move for either player. And Corey Clark wanted to design a game that has no draws. So how can you have forbidden patterns and still have no draws? He said, well, you can move the stones. Let's run that requirement. So now stones can be moved. So how does it work? When it's your turn, optionally, you can move an existing stones to an adjacent cell. First thing. Second thing, you have to add a new stone to the board. So after every turn, the number of stones on the board will increase by 4. Also, you have to avoid the forbidden pattern that loops. And the goal remains to connect your size. So how does it work? This would be a legal move for white. We bring the top stone here, and we add a new stone there, and hopefully we'll be able to connect bottom to top within a move or two. So this looks like it. And now, the legal move for black is I'm bringing this stone here, and I'm adding a new stone there. And because I'm bringing it, then there is no forbidden pattern there. And after black does this, the game is over because black has connected the right edge to the left edge. This is how the game plays. So, yeah, and Corey Clark said, okay, so now we don't have any draws anymore. And people, well, some people believed him and some people didn't believe him. So when you look on forums, there are always people, oh, I think I have found a draw, and this is a position. And then a day or two later, Corey Clark says, no, this is not a draw. Here is a forbidden pattern, or here's a legal move. And at the later part of the talk, I will tell you how we can show that there are no draws indeed. Same strategy as for Twixt. We're going to represent hex on the Slither board. And this is how we do it. It's a bit messier. But the idea is that we have this white group, this white group, and this white group. In Twixt, we had 3 groups, each connecting 2 edges, and here we also have 3 groups. And we want a white move that will connect them, 3 of them. So, well, okay, I'll do it back first. So, we're connecting black by moving this stone here and adding a new one there. And although this group is not connected to this group yet, they have a virtual connection that white cannot prevent. And so black can always fill this at the end of the game when the simulation of hexes is over. And similarly, this, moving this stone from here to there and adding a new one here, would connect these 2 groups from white, and black cannot prevent connection to the bottom group at a later stage. Yeah. So the first thing that I will explain is you can't just add a stone here. Let's take black. Black can't just add a stone here because there's a forbidden pattern there. Can't add a stone here because there's a forbidden pattern with this one. Can't add a stone here because there's a forbidden pattern with this. And can't add a stone here because there's a forbidden pattern with this. And it's the same up there. So black cannot just add a stone. Black has to move a stone and add one in the same small cell. Okay, now, so let's say that black does that. At the later stage, when black has won the rest of the simulation. Black can always play one stone here and not move anything, and that ensures that the two groups are connected. Now, if white wants to prevent that from happening, well, white can't lay a stone here and not move anything because there's a forbidden pattern there. So if white moves this one and adds a new stone there, for instance, well, there's a forbidden pattern with this. And if white does not add a stone here, but somewhere else on the board, then black, and moves this one, then black could move this stone here and add a new one there and connect still. And we can have a look a bit longer and be convinced that there's no way here that white could block the two black groups directly. And if white was to spend one move here instead of making a useful move elsewhere, then black can respond locally and ensure connection. Okay, so the full board. This is still 3x3 X represented on a larger Slither board, and the same thing. This bottom edge is connected to this group. So if black moves this stone and add a new one here, well, black has connected this to that, and also this one. Not yet, but virtually. And then this one, if black moves this and plays here, it will be connected to the top, and so on and so forth. And this simulates the game of hex. And the same thing, there's no point playing here, because this will not help black, either will help black. Is everything clear so far? Yeah?
So optimal, so I guess I just, if you could put hex, in this case, optimally, but that's what implies that for any board configuration you can optimally. Another version would say, of all the board configurations that would be achievable by standard sequence moves, that's a more restricted version.
Yeah.
So you're getting a very general definition of that. Any arbitrary board configuration, such as this one.
Yes. So any board, even if you have played already some moves, you can represent it that way, and then your optimal Slither strategy will tell you how to play hex. Now, if you have a specific hex board that you have achieved through a normal, regular thing, and you had a general Slither strategy, then you could use the general Slither strategy. Now, if you don't have a general Slither strategy, but you just have a strategy that tells you how to play from the starting board, then maybe you will not reach this configuration. Actually, most likely you will not reach this. And that will not tell you anything about hex. So the real theoretical question that we're addressing is, do I have a strategy that will tell you about any board? And in the later part of the talk, I will tell you about strategy for specific positions. Okay. Any other question? So let's continue. Third game, Havannah. Havannah was invented in the early 80s by Christian Feeling, a Dutch board game designer. Twice it was shortlisted for the Spiel des Jahres. And there was already a playing community of Havannah online and in the Netherlands at least. The game was marketed to. And in 2002, that was before the multicolored research algorithm was invented, Christian Feeling said, oh, I'm sure no one can program a bot for Havannah. This is really like Go, and we all know that Go is impossible to program. So I'm willing to offer €1,000 to any computer programmer that can come up with a bot within the next 10 years, and in a match of 10 games, the bot would win 1 game. And then 5 years later, multicolored research was discovered, and Havannah looked much easier at that time. And Timo Evans did a master's thesis here on the game of Havannah and built a bot for it. And other people in Los Angeles and in the Netherlands also built bots. And just before the deadline, collectively they challenged Christian Feeling to his own thing, and they presented their bots, and they managed to win not just 1 game, but I think 6 or 7. I don't remember. We can look it up. And so the challenge was accepted, and the computer programmers were able to build strong Havannah bots. Still, Christian was very happy about the outcome because it got lots of people interested in the game. There were not only Timo's master's thesis, but a few other people had done their master's thesis on Havannah. There were a couple of papers, and this is our paper where we proved that the game is p-space hard. We were not the first to try to prove it. Olivier Teto and Fabien Teto, who were working on Go and Havannah, had been trying to prove that it was p-space-complete. And I had tried with them back in 2011, I think, and we hadn't been able. And then just a couple of years ago, we found a new way to attack the problem that managed to work. So let me tell you what the rules of the game. So now you have a really hexagonal board, and the two players are placing pieces, they are not captured and they are not moved, unlike Slither. But instead of just connecting two edges, now we have three different winning conditions, and the first player to manage to fulfill one of these conditions wins the game. The first condition on the left, for the black group, is called the fork, and it says you manage to connect three different edges with a single group. So this group connects the bottom left edge to the top left and to the top right. So this is a connecting group. So this is a winning group for black. It connects three edges. Second condition is you make a ring that has non-empty area. So this one, the area is 3. So you want to make some sort of cycle. And this is also a winning condition. And on the right is the third, the bridge, is to connect two corners. So the corners, they don't belong to the edges. So either you try to connect corners or you try to connect edges. And so this is the third winning condition. And with the white groups, we have examples of things that are not winning yet. So this white group is not connecting two corners, just one. And it's not connecting three edges, just the left one and the top left one. It's not connecting to the bottom left one. By adding a move here or in the corner, we could make this into a winning pattern. This one, well, clearly it's not a fork nor a bridge, but it's not a ring either because the enclosed surface area is empty.
So what if there's a white stone in the enclosed area of black?
It would still be a winning group for black. So you just want the area to be non-null, but whether it's empty or open stones or your own stones, that's fine.
So if you add one more white stone,
if we add a white stone here, then we create this cycle that has surface 1. So those are the rules of Havannah. And when we look at the bridge, or when we look at the fork, it looks really a lot like hex. We're trying to connect things that are far apart. And this is how we tried to prove that the game was p-space hard originally. We said, okay, we're going from hex, then we're going to reduce to Havannah, so we play a big board of Havannah, and we fill the bottom with the black stones, and fill the top with black stones, we'll fill the right with white, fill the left with white, and then they play hex in the middle. And that doesn't work. Because if in the middle they make a ring pattern, then the Havannah game is over, even though the hex game is not over from simulating. So,
in this case, you could have both players winning.
Absolutely. So this is another difference in the game design. Unlike hex and Twixt and Slither, where if you win, for sure the opponent doesn't win. Here you can have the two players aiming to achieve the same winning condition, and the only thing that prevents it from happening at the same time is that the first one makes it, the game is over. And if the game wasn't over, then the other one could do it. And that doesn't happen with hex and the other games. So this is a different game design idea, and it has a big impact in terms of how you play the game, because now we're going for races. You're making threats, and these threats are not countering the opponent's threat, they're just more urgent to be addressed. And this idea is actually key to how we prove that it's p-space hard. Instead of going for, we're going to make a bridge, or we're going to make a fork, we're going to make instead a ring, a small ring, and the opponent, for the opponent to block our ring, they have to make their own ring, which will give us the opportunity to make our own ring. And if at any point we play elsewhere, then the threat will be completed and the game is over. So we're not reducing from hex for once, we're reducing from generalized geography. What is this game? This is much more abstract than hex. It's a game played on a graph. There's a graph like this one, a token on one of the vertices, and when it's your turn, you take the token and you move it to a neighboring vertex. Maybe this one, maybe this one. Then it's the opponent's turn, and they move the vertex to a neighboring, or the token to a neighboring vertex. So white can move it to the right, black can move it to the top, white can move it to the top left, and now black has no legal move. You lose the game of geography when you don't have any legal move. So your goal is to get your opponent to be stuck with the token without any successor vertex to move it. This is values. Why do people call it geography? When there's a game that kids play called geography, say, oh, I say a capital city like Sydney, and now my partner, my opponent, has to say another city that starts with the last letter of my city. So with Y, maybe York. Then my turn, Kansas City. Oh, Y again. And so you're not allowed to say the same city twice. And this can be seen as the generalized version. So instead of being restricted to actual cities and letters, you have a full graph. This game of geography has been used to prove the hardest of many different games. Not just Hex, also Othello, Amazons, Uno, Contract Bridge. This is another paper that I will present next week. And today we'll use it to prove that Havannah is different. Okay. Why is this graph game so popular in proving hardest results? Well, because you can make assumptions on the graph. You can assume that the graph is bipartite. You can assume that the graph is planar. You can assume that the graph has bounded degree to 3. What does this assumption buy you? Well, when you play the board game, the board is very much planar usually. So the fact that the graph is planar itself will be useful to simulate if you want to simulate a non-planar graph on a planar board, this will be harder. But geography remains piece-space hard on planar graphs. Bipartite means that if we look at the vertices, we can say, oh, all these vertices belong to the same player, circle. All these vertices belong to the same player, square. And you always go from circle to square, and you always go from square to circle. And this means that you can map to each vertex to one player, and only that player will have to make a decision in that vertex. And so when you go into the games world, then you can make a reduction gadget specific to the player. Okay, it turns out that if you have degree 3, then the different types of vertices that you have to consider is limited. You don't have to consider vertices where you have 4 incoming edges and 7 outgoing edges. These are the list. And then for some additional arguments that I'm not developing today, you can rule out some of them. And you're left with 0, 2 vertex, 1, 1 vertex, 1, 2, and 2, 1. So this means I have 1 incoming edge and 1 outgoing. This is an example of a square 1, 1. This is an example of a 2, 1. So these are the vertices that you have to represent, and we can do it in Havannah. And this is how we would represent in Havannah the different geography vertices. I'm not going to explain to you in details how it works, but I will give you some intuition. So we're trying to make threads, ring threads, and let's look at the 1, 1 vertex at the top. We imagine that there's an incoming thread, and so those 3 black stones are threatened by the surrounding white group to make a ring. So just imagine that the white group are connected via the left, somewhere else on the board. Then white is threatening to play in this empty hex, and that would make a ring and win the game. And the only way for black to prevent this is to play in that cell themselves. And when they do that, then the new group is threatening to connect via this cell. And that forces white to play there. And so we were coming with a white group from the top left, and we're going out with the black group from the bottom left, right. And these were kind of similar, but I'm not getting into it. And so how this Havannah geography graph can be reduced to Havannah is like this. So we have Here is the 1-1 vertex that I have shown you, except that the poles are reversed. So black has a threat, and the only way for white to protect it is to play here, which creates a threat here, which forces black to play there, and so on and so forth. And that way we're simulating geography on that Havannah board. Okay. I don't have time to go into detail, so I'll tell you, yeah?
So, after the game, so there's an initial board configuration given. Here, before the game begins, you and your partner will lay out the board configuration?
So, when you play geography, if you play with the cities, then you have the dictionary of visible cities. If you play in an arbitrary graph, this is your input position. And indeed, there is not an empty starting position that would be standard for geography. Arbitrary graphs are standard.
But some might be an obvious place on one side or the other side, right?
Yeah, yeah, and depending on what the Havannah strategy tells you, you will know whether it was a winning graph for black or for white. So, fourth game today, Shannon's edge switching game. So this is my lame attempt at drawing matches in LaTeX, so it's not the right kind of colors, but it gives you an idea. In this game, it's also a connection game invented by David Gale, and people would call the game Gale at first, and then people change the name. One player is trying to connect one corner to the other corner by playing coins onto the matches, and the other player is removing the matches that don't have any coin on them. So this is, let's say this is a starting position. So the connecting player has placed a few coins already, and the opponent has removed a few matches. And how will the game proceed? Maybe the disconnecting player wants to disconnect S from the top, then connecting goes on, and at some point the connecting player realizes that, oh, T is about to be disconnected, so I'm going to do something fast, but it's too late. And now the disconnecting player has won by making this unconnectable to the top. So this is another connection game. Is it clear? Okay. So how can we prove that this game is hard? Maybe Hex, maybe Havannah. It's clear that it's a connection game. It's clear that it resembles the other ones, although we played with sticks and coins. Well, the problem is still open. How to prove that this one is hard? Because people have shown that it was actually easy. People have shown that this Shannon edge switching game was polynomial time solvable. So we have efficient optimal strategies for this game. So if we were able to represent a Havannah board on it or a Hex board, then we would be able to solve Havannah and Hex and the Turing machines and all of that. So when we go for the complexity classes, we have our three new problems here in PSPACE-complete, and we have the Shannon switching game as a tractable problem. So yes, it would be very interesting if someone was able to reduce two Shannon switching game, but I would think that there's a bug in that proof. So you were asking earlier, what do we do with reasonable positions, not positions that are made out of nowhere like the one I have used. And what's the most reasonable position? It's the empty one, the starting position. So what can we say about the starting position? In the early 20th century, researchers in Miller showed that every chess-like game is determined. So chess-like means two-player, taking turns, the outcome is win, draw, loss, perfect information, these kind of things. So either there exists a winning strategy for the first player, or there exists a winning strategy for the second player, or the game is a draw. Both players have a strategy that would ensure that they can get a draw at least. This is not too difficult to understand for us 100 years later, but at the time it was kind of a new idea. And so we can categorize every game, every starting position, whether it's a theoretical win, a theoretical loss, a theoretical draw. Chess is one of these three. We don't know which one it is. We haven't been able to prove it. Players, they believe that it's a theoretical draw, or maybe a theoretical first player win, but we're not sure yet. For Hex, we know. For Hex, we know that the initial empty position is a theoretical win, and this was actually one of John Nash's motivation for inventing the game in the first place. He wanted to design a game where he would know who wins, but he would still want the game to be interesting and fun to play. And Hex came as a result. So how did Nash prove that Hex is a first player win without making the game stupid? So the first element is to say there are no draws in this game. It's not possible to come up with the positions where no one can play. If you have an empty cell, you can always play. And if the board is empty, there will be exactly one winning group. And I'm not going to prove it to you today. Just believe me, it's been known for 50 years. And I could prove it to you in 10 minutes, but I don't have that time today. So there are no draws in Hex. Second thing, and this is the more interesting one, that was the motivation for Nash, is there is no second player winning. And how do we prove it? We say, well, we're going to make a reduction ad absurdum. So let's suppose that there was a win for the second player, that the second player had an optimal strategy. Let's make this assumption, and let's call the strategy S. Now the first player, because it's known that there exists S, the first player can look at S and say, oh, this strategy looks good, I'm going to use it for myself. Okay, I have to play a move because it's my turn, but I forget about it. I just leave it on the side, and now I pretend it didn't exist, and I will apply the strategy S. And if at any point the strategy S tells me, oh, you should play where my pawn is there already, I just play somewhere else random. And I continue ignoring that new random pawn. And because this is a second player win, and it never hurts you to have an additional pawn or an additional piece, then S will make the first player win too, if they ignore that piece. So S makes the second player win and the first player win, and this is not possible. So our initial assumption was wrong. There is not a second player win in Hex. So this proof, called the strategy stealing argument, it relies on two important facts. One, there is no Zugspot. So having an additional move, an additional piece on the board will never hurt you. If it hurt you, then you couldn't just ignore it and pretend that it didn't exist, because maybe it will make you lose. And the second hypothesis is that you can map the recommendation of S for the second player into recommendations for the first player. And this requires the game to be highly symmetrical, which is the case of Hex. Once you have that, no draws and no second player win, then you can derive that the empty starting position of Hex is a first player win. This is a non-constructive proof, and it doesn't tell us how to play Hex better. As we know, how to play Hex on an arbitrary board is a difficult problem. That's what we argued in the first part of this thing. So, can this idea, this is called the ultra-weak solution. We know the result, but we don't know how to use it. Can this idea be extended to Havannah, to Twixt, to Slither? Well, let's have a look. For Twixt, well, there are draws. This is a drawn position, and this pattern is very easy to extend to larger sizes or smaller sizes. So we can't say, oh, Twixt is definitely a first player win, because although we can use the strategy stealing argument to rule out second player win, we cannot rule out the draws because then it's possible to come up with draws. So we don't know yet if the initial position of Twixt is a theoretical draw or a theoretical first player win. Yeah.
So you had so there is actually a proof that proves, okay, this position, which is a draw, you can get to that position from the initial state.
Yeah. For instance, I play here, you can place there, I play here, there's a
Yeah.
And you don't know, like maybe the optimal strategy is to do that sort of proof. We have no proof that it's not that. So we can't rule it out.
Does the game make sense on smaller boards? And if yes, are there results on small boards?
For Twixt. So we know that there are draws on size 4 and upwards, 3 known. Solving it exactly, I haven't tried to do it, nor have my golfers, but I know that some people have tried, and I think it might be solved up to very small sizes, but it gets large very easy. Because human plays on 24 by 24, so this is really big. I don't know of any. Yeah, so you would have to look at the master thesis of people, or bachelor thesis of people from Maastricht, and there you would find maybe some defensive proof, but I don't know of any papers that solve it for small boards. Yeah. So Havannah is the same. we can come up with positions that are draws. And because we cannot rule out these positions from optimal play, we don't know the mathematical argument to say this is not optimal, then it's possible, so far, that the theoretical outcome is a draw. So this is a drawn position. It's easy to check that all the groups don't satisfy neither of the three conditions. So clearly they don't satisfy the ring. This one only touches one edge, so no fork. Only one corner, so no bridge. This one is one corner and two edges, so no fork, no bridge. This one only two edges, and so on and so forth. And this can be extended to larger sizes by adding more layers. So Havannah, maybe it's a draw, or maybe win. Both for Twixt and for Havannah, though, we can use the strategy stealing argument and rule out that it's not a second player win.
With Havannah, the strategy stealing, having that extra superfluous piece might actually create some moves I'm not allowed to play.
For Havannah, you don't have forbidden patterns.
Oh, no, Havannah. Oh yeah. Okay, yes. The other game.
Yeah, so we'll come to this. Yeah. Okay, so what about draws in Slither? Corey Clark, the inventor, said, oh, there's no draws. But people have been trying to find draws for a long time, so clearly just saying there are no draws is not convincing for some people. So we have to prove it. But are we convinced that there are no draws ourselves? Well, it's not so clear. These are three different Slither positions. This is a regular position where there's no legal move for black, even when we are allowed to move pieces. So if we want to play a black here, there's a forbidden pattern, so we have to move something. If we move this one, this is a forbidden pattern. And if we move this one, this is a forbidden pattern. If we move this one, this is a forbidden pattern.
So at the start of the move, you cannot you cannot even temporarily have a forbidden pattern.
Well, you move your piece, and then you add one, and at the end of the move, there shouldn't be a forbidden pattern. Intermediate, it doesn't matter so much, but here, at the end of the move, there would be the pattern. However, in this position, it's legal for white to make some move. For instance, white can move this one here, and then the new cell there. White wins. So this has no legal move for black, but a legal move for black. So can we come up with a position that has no legal move for black and no legal move for white? It's not so obvious compared to what Corey Clark says.
Do the players have to alternate, or they can just toss?
So when we come up with a position like this, we have to specify the rule. Originally, it wasn't said, so now it's said that the player has to pass. But you only pass when you have no choice. So this is not a planar board anymore. This is a cylinder. So imagine that this is connected here. Now, in this cylinder position, there is no legal move for black, and there is no legal move for white. Okay. Just putting a piece here is not legal for black because forbidden pattern and there. So even if you move this one, this forbidden pattern remains. If you move this one, the forbidden pattern there remains. Same argument here. And if we play a black stone there, we have a forbidden pattern there. And we also have the one across the boundary here. And for the same reason we can prevent it. And it's symmetrical. There's no white move legal in that position. So if we were to play Slither on a cylinder board, there would be draws. If it's a torus, so left is connected to right and top is connected to bottom already, there would also be draws. So the question remains, what about planar boards, rectangular boards, the ones that are in the original game? We have been able to prove that there were no draws. So how do we do that? So we say that if the board is full, there is a winning group, there exists a winning group for sure, and this is not too difficult. This is very similar to the hex proof. If the board is not full, then there is at least one empty space. And we need to show that either one of the players can play in that empty space. So we need to look at the neighbors and make sure that it's not forbidden. Or if this is forbidden, then it tells us something about the neighbors. And we look at those neighbors and say, oh, okay, this neighbor is empty, so maybe we can play. And we do some sort of case analysis. That turns out to be pretty long, so I will spare you the details. Just have a look at how it plays out in the paper. We'll look at some position and say, okay, maybe it looks like this, maybe it looks like that. If it looks like this, then we have those If this is forbidden, then it tells us something about the neighbors, and so on and so forth. And at the end, we conclude that there is no positions where no player can make a move, and there are still empty cells. Yes?
Is this computer checked?
This is not computer checked. It could be computer checked, I think. It's not too difficult because we have a very methodical analysis where we go really step by step. And yeah, because otherwise we get lost in the proof. So we had to be methodical. And I think that it is amenable to being proven with a set solver. But we haven't done it.
But these are all the cases. These are all possible patterns.
Yeah, but maybe you can't see it from here, but on some cells you have small dots. And so these are actually sets of patterns that are consistent with this. And that way we can reduce the number of cases to study. Okay, Zugzwang. Well, there are Zugzwang in Slither. There are positions where you wish it wasn't your turn. This is an example of one. If it is white's move, and white, well, what are the legal moves for white? This cannot be moved, otherwise the two form a forbidden pattern. If we add a stone here, we have a forbidden pattern with this one. If we add a stone here, we have a forbidden pattern with these two. The only legal move is to put a white stone there and move this one that creates the forbidden pattern here. And then we don't have the forbidden pattern anymore. But if we do that, then we make space for black to win the game. And the same thing can happen for black at the top of the board. There's only a single legal move for black, and then white wins. If white didn't have this cell, then white plays here, and now it's for black to lose the game. So having an additional piece can hurt you. So as a summary, for Hex, we know that there are no outdraws, we know that there are no Zugzwangs, so the game is a first player win. For Twixt and Havannah, well, there are draws, so we can only deduce that it's either a first player win or a draw. For Slither, there are Zugzwangs, so it's either a first player win or a second player win, depending on whether having the first move hurts you or doesn't hurt you. As for chess, we have no idea. Okay, so to conclude, let me just emphasize some of the applications of this work. And I think that these were very visual reductions, especially the Twixt one. And I think it can give you an introduction to theoretical computer science and complexity theory without requiring high-level concepts. Today, I have used 0 high school maths. I have used 0 abstraction math. Just told you about board games and how to use other board games with the first ones. So you can teach Hex to someone within 2 minutes. That's just explain the rules, try to connect. They won't know how to play well, but no one does. You can teach them how to play Twixt, also very fast, and then you can show them the small reduction and how to represent the 3x3 hex board on a Twixt board, and that will take them a bit more time, but not all that much. And then you can tell them about the Shannon switching game with the matches and the coins really fast. And you can ask them, can you find a reduction from Hex to the Shannon switching game? And then within 10 minutes, you have them working on one of the most important problems of theoretical computer science in the 21st century. And I think this is really good for making this discipline more accessible when we try to do some outreach. And so to conclude, we have set the complexity of Havannah, we have settled the complexity of Slither, also that of Twixt. This could be useful for computer science, I believe. We understand better the design decisions between connection games and how they impact AI work on them. One thing that we have not looked at is those connection games where captures do occur. So in those connection games, maybe they will not be PSPACE-complete, maybe they will be X-time complete, because the number of stones on the board does not increase by 1 at every step. So that's a whole new class of problems to have a look at. Other thing is parameterized complexity. So the complexity theorists who study P versus NP, they say, okay, this problem is difficult, and yet in practice we have industrial solvers that solve it. So how come? They're able to say, oh, we're looking at the graph, but the degree of the graph is bounded by k. Or we're looking at this, and we have that parameter that remains small in industrial problems. When we do our reduction, we have to make that parameter grow, but in practice it remains small. So what if we assume that the parameter was small, then we can't make the reduction anymore, and this is a whole field of theoretical computer science that was studied in the 90s called parameterized complexity. We have some results in the paper on the parameterized complexity of short hex. So the parameters is the number of moves that you make. An open problem was you take hex plane on the graph, and you bound yourself to not play more than k moves. Can you win within k moves? We have shown that this was hard when you play on an arbitrary graph. But when you play on the hex board that is planar and nice, and then it becomes polynomial time solvable. So we have a polynomial time solving algorithm that will tell you, so polynomial in the size of the board, that will tell you whether you can win in k moves or not. Of course, it's exponential in k, but if k is small, then you have a polynomial algorithm to tell you. And this is not too obvious, because if you look at the branching factor, it's n squared. Look at depth k, so it's n squared to the power of k, basically. And this is not like, n and k are not separate. But we have an algorithm where we can separate the two, and you have something that's polynomial in n, and then exponential in k. Can these ideas be implemented into a practical algorithm for endgame solving in hex? This is an interesting future work I think that we are starting to work on. And can these ideas be applied to Havannah and other games? That we don't know yet. So, as a last remark, I have you ask, if we ever meet an extraterrestrial civilization, will they reduce from hex? Thank you.